bring out Jonathan Tiersten. And of course, the lovely Felissa Rose. Yo.
Hi, guys!
All right, first off, little easy question. How did you guys get involved in the film?
Go ahead, Ted.
I'd been doing mostly porn.
This is true.
No, it was at least initially, it was fairly typical. I had an audition in New York City. And general casting call, but it was improv, which was not usual. And the long story short is that Robert Hiltzik asked me to tell him all.
Go ahead, do it.
No, it's funny though, because...
Fuck you, Prince, motherfucker!
See, she's got it right.
That's part of the movie.
I looked at him and just said, seriously? Because I had a lot of pent-up rage. And he said, yeah. And I swear to God, I saw his hair blow back. And I walked out and I had 2 girlfriends in the city with me. And I said, I think I got that. Yeah. I was like, and I feel clean.
For me, my mom was like this crazy New York stage mother who was like, you should be an actress. And so I went and found like this local manager, and they said, well, you know what, you're ethnic. I had no freaking clue what that meant. And they said, we'll send you on 3 auditions, a Tide commercial, an off-Broadway show, and a horror movie. They want like this, I was 12 at the time, they wanted a flat-chested little girl. Changed since I can't do the remake. But, so they, they sent me out, and I met with Robert Hiltzik, and we immediately, he and I, became BFFs. It's sort of like we looked at one another, and we knew there was this connection that was otherworldly, and it's still there to this day. So he just wanted me to stare, and he wanted me to feel, insecure and bullied. And I was like, no, I was this crazy kid even at that age. But it just worked out. I walked out of the room as well and said, I definitely got this. And sure enough, a couple of months later, they called back and said, you got the role. And I thought, oh my God, this is so exciting. And then I got to meet this guy. And my whole world changed.
So how do you think Sleepaway Camp holds up to other 80s slashers?
It sucks. Sleepaway Camp is that little fun, cheesy slasher, and I think we all agree that what's kind of stayed with us is the shocking ending, if I may. My penis blew us all out.
I will add an addendum to that though, and that the reason that it's had this resurgence is not just that though. It's the bullying. It's all the homoerotic stuff. It's the arguments that people have, whether it's I can never get the acronym right, LGBTY yogurt. Or it's against it, whether it's a benevolent film or a malevolent film. That's the stuff that's so interesting. And yet, in the midst of all of that, it's, as I've said to you and to a million people, it's funnier than Meatballs, and it's scarier than Friday the 13th. So,
I don't know about that. That's like sacrilege, but okay. We'll go with yeah.
So it seems like, as you were saying, the film really pushed the envelope on a lot of things, actually killing kids, the homoerotic side of it, taking advantage of kids sexually. In retrospect, do you think the director was trying to do that to stick out amongst all the other slasher films at the time?
Robert was very deliberate. He's someone who is incredibly intelligent, and when he was writing, the screenplay, he wrote the ending first. So he had the ending, then he started with the beginning, and he filled in, obviously, with the baseball scene. Sort of like the whole middle of the movie. But
It's my favorite part.
Yeah, fuck off. I'm sorry, I feel bad when kids are here. Trying to keep a good nap.
Yeah, what? What's up with that?
So, I think he knew it was provocative for the time, I think, for the early 80s. Here we have the kids and trying to figure out sexuality and whatnot. And that's what sort of resonates with people, that it was a bit out there, it was different, it dealt with issues perhaps stronger than some just, fun other horror.
And it had the first, as I've said before also, it had the first, you knew who the killer was pretty early on.
Did you guys know?
Well, you didn't know what she was. Well, some thought it was me.
What
I
I
get it. But the point being that everybody liked Angela. And that was the first time that happened in a horror movie. You didn't like Anthony Perkins. And you didn't like, at least initially,
I
until
did.
he became a comic, until he became like a cartoon of himself. You didn't like Freddy Krueger, but Angela is, everybody, and she was able to emote so much with her eyes, with no dialogue, that it was amazing. It really was.
I'll kiss you later.
As child actors, how much were you sheltered from some of the gore and things like that in the film?
I was, for me, because I had just turned 13, which was quite young, there are rules. We were a SAG movie, which is the Screen Actors Guild, so they really had a tight leash on Robert and what they were willing to have me do. They didn't want my hands in certain scenes. They didn't want, but I was like that kid who just wanted to be involved and watch the stabbing and the crazy and the, I was a fan of the genre, so to me this was like the most thrilling. But he, he was a bit older. He was 17, and he did all the killing.
And I saw everything. I had the ending. I saw everything. I saw the last shot. But Robert.
He was the last
Robert
shot.
and I were yeah, wouldn't have fit the frame. Robert and I have had a very close relationship on set as well. But we have unlike Felissa, we have a much more complicated relationship. But at the time, I was sort of his confidant, and he would pick me up at 11 o'clock at night and take me bowling, and going, what am I doing?
Robert was 24.
I was like, I don't know.
That's not to be making a horror movie.
Yeah, he was 24. I was 17. We were contemporaries, So, but I saw everything.
And we dated on the set, me and Johnny.
Oh, you had to bring that up.
I think that's a fun fact that I love to just bring back over and over again. 32 years later.
And behaving badly.
Now the kill scene for the cook with the boiling water and everything, how was that, watching that transform on set?
Well, that one is really interesting because they initially tried to shoot it they hired a guy for a lot of money with a Steadicam from New York City. This is long before the age of digital cameras and stuff. And Robert painted all of the footage. So they went back to the actual camera guy, and he did it with a handheld. There's no stabilization, none of that stuff. And I remember thinking as I'm pulling the chair, even then it was like just pull it a little, pull a little, pull a little. Like, we've been here for an hour. I'm like, this isn't gonna look very realistic. Shut up, kid. Okay, pull some more. And so yeah, I laughed, and then I realized over the years, it took me forever to understand that, the way they drew out all of the kill scenes was on purpose, and it's hysterical now, because it's so awesome. It's just like, couldn't he just, and you always hear people going, couldn't he just get off the stool or go with pot or like a bit? And I'm like, you're not understanding what horror is all about, are you?
And I love his hands. If you watch his hands, the close up, they're tight on it, and then the far away, he's not on it. So it's terrible.
I had trouble losing I was terribly unfocused. Owen.
Owen.
Oh, Owen, I was great. course.
You were amazing. Owen had some
My
problems.
hands were the best actor in the movie.
They were pretty incredible. I got to watch it too.
Just a double entendre.
All of a sudden, we're going back to your roots of porn. With the music, the lights, too.
Is this like a shaggy dog?
It might be. It was cool to watch. Ed French had some problems too. I remember they made this floor. We all like kind of just sat there and watched him bubble and burn. And
That was the coolest effect ever. Do you guys agree? That was the coolest.
1982.
1982 to have that bubbling, blistering face. That was
Ed
so.
French. Let's give it up for Ed French.
Yeah, who is
like,
now an Academy Award winner.
Yeah, he was just an amazing special
He's
effects
working
guy.
with Eastwood right now. So.
So you guys filmed on location in New York. Talk about some of the shooting challenges of being outside most of the time and having so many kids on set at once.
Well, yeah, we were in New York, and I know the leaves were changing, so they had a lot of problems with the, exteriors. With the kids on set, yeah, we were all a bit of a lot of pains in the asses. I would never go to school. I had a tutor, and I was like, oh, just let me, hang out, let me party, and, do what I wanted to do. But, for the most part, it was a really easy shoot. Robert was, had everything under control, and we all got along like family. It was
a huge crew too.
Yeah, we had a great crew, great cast. And every day I talked to John Dunn, who played Kenny, Tom Vandal, who's coming to visit, he played Mike, this guy, who I'm on the phone with every day, Frank Sorrentino, who played Little Peter. It's like we're still best friends, which is, pretty remarkable, I think, for 32 years. These are my boys who I love and I hang out with all the time.
So let's talk about the ending of the film.
Let's not.
Would you like to see my penis?
Talk about setting up for
Bigger than 1982.
the shot. What went into shooting the ending of the film?
She has no idea.
Who was the
No, just talking.
Well, I was there.
Right. So just
He was there. They didn't let me on set.
Right, they had this college student from a local college, and they shaved him except for his genitalia, and they gave him the wardrobe lady and the makeup lady gave him a bottle of Jack Daniels, and he was crying horribly, thinking, no, I don't want to do this. I can't wait to die."
Poor thing, he's wearing a little girl mask. Let's lay it out. Shall we? For the first time, let's talk about this. I'm an 18-year-old guy, and I'm nude, and I have to look like this little chick, so they shave me down, and I'm wearing a little girl mask, standing there full
In
frontal.
35
Would you be
degree,
happy? I'd be bawling
in
too.
35-degree weather in front of a lake.
Yeah, in front of
It
the
was
lake.
so cold.
And we know what happens
And
with water.
it was like George Costanza, and so I'm sitting there by a heat lamp and just laughing with tears running down my face. It was so awful. It was so awful. I really feel badly for him. He's never, you can't say come out, that doesn't really work, so I don't know what he would do. He's already come out one way or the other, so he can't do that. Maybe he can come in. I don't know. But it was, and I think Robert was whatever. Frank was very into keeping the guy out there. I think they were really enjoying themselves while he was standing there, and it was awful. It really was. It was like theater of cruelty.
Oh, when the film was released, talk about the reaction to the ending. What do you remember the most from people?
I remember watching it, but I have a lot of friends now because of, Sleepaway Camp who've come to me and said, I'm a big fan of it. One of them is Sean Whalen, the actor Sean Whalen, who is an incredible character actor, and it's his favorite movie of all time. And he said they all sat in the theater, they watched it. This kind of sums it up. And as soon as the ending came on, they went, And the whole theater looked at each other and proceeded to take it to the lobby and say, what the hell was that? So I think, and also felt like, why isn't it continuing? Like, okay, so what else happened? It's just crazy. You have this little 13-year-old girl, and then all of a sudden she's a boy. So I think it's definitely, made people go, wow, that's bizarre. Right? I should ask you guys, is that strange? Was it weird when you first saw it? How many people saw it without knowing what happened? Whoa. There you go. And was it shocking to you?
Oh, yeah.
That's why Eli Roth loves it.
Yeah.
She and I were just talking to him about 3 weeks ago, and he said Sleepaway Camp is like a fine Bordeaux. It just gets better with time. And he said this is a tweet, you can look it up. It says retroactive Oscars are a must. And so Felissa, of course, immediately said, remake?
That would be interesting, Eli Roth remaking Sleepaway
Well,
Camp.
and Felissa playing Aunt Margaret.
I'd love to play Aunt Martha. Richard, Angela!
I would just still play the hands. Yeah, I like to,
And the
stretch.
penis. Come on
I like to
now.
stretch.
Let me give you a little bone. Penis and hands.
A little bone? I never liked her.
So do you guys remember shooting anything that didn't make it into the film?
No, everything made it. That's what's so uncanny. It was so organized, that first shoot, and it was the same crew that had just shot Creepshow, and so they were so on point. The sound guy, to the grips, to the cameraman, these guys were so good. So everything made it, and they had their 6 weeks, and it had to get done.
And Robert says he would never waste film. That's 35 millimeter. Come on now. It makes sense. Yeah, okay.
Shit's expensive.
So
$350,000 is a lot of money in 1952.
It's a lot of money now.
any behind the scenes antics you guys can remember that?
No.
Never. Us? Why, of course not.
What are you talking about? I was reading Shakespeare. What's
We were out of control. Our hormones were
the
raging.
big pile of
We were
cocaine
like-
in the middle of
Yeah, it was
Julius
insanity.
Caesar?
We were out of our minds. I mean, not so much me, because I had my mom on set, but definitely he was out of control, and
The cinematographer said to me, you can't keep walking into set with huge bags under your eyes. You're supposed to be 14. I said, I'm sorry. I only had 6 beers.
And we were making out at night in the hotel room.
So what are your thoughts on the sequels?
I love them. I'm a huge Pamela Springsteen Angela fan. In all honesty. Woo! I just wish I could meet that chick. I want to hang out with her.
What am I?
He hasn't seen any. I don't even think he's seen Sleepaway Camp.
No, but I haven't seen the other one.
He hasn't seen Return to Sleepaway Camp, and he hasn't seen the sequels. Tell him what he's missing with the sequels.
I'm a purist,
Come on.
guys. Sorry.
No, the sequels are fantastic.
I saw the first Friday the 13th, and that's, yep. And
We'll beat him later.
yeah, I saw the first Hellraiser. It's
Okay, we don't know. Go ahead, Mike.
I've seen Sleepaway Camp. I have.
What'd you think of it?
I don't remember.
So
But,
what is it about the 80s that made it such a decade?
Cocaine.
Oh, good. Next question. But the rise of really the horror genre. I mean, so many classic films came out of the 80s.
The best. It's a time when we were a lot more innocent with these kinds of films, and I think it was just, I don't know, lightning in a bottle. You can't really explain. That's my favorite era. Slasher films are my favorite. So I don't know. We were.
I think it was a reaction to Ronald
CGI.
Reagan.
Oh my God.
I'm not kidding. I really do. I think it was a reaction to.
That was about CGI, not about
I get it. No,
the
the country became very reactionary in the 80s. That's when everything, completely flipped the switch and became conservative.
Shut the fuck up.
So, and I think so. The only, medium that sort of rebelled against that was the slasher film medium, and so they did. And so they went more over the top than they had previously.
Now, you guys were in a quintessential horror film. What do you think makes horror stand out above other genres that we have conventions and such knowledgeable fans? What do you think it is about the genre?
Cocaine.
That's an awesome answer. I love it.
The experience of a horror film is like none other. I mean, let's really be honest. The adrenaline, the ride, the rush, I can't stand romantic comedies. You can get that in your real life, anything drama, romance, all of that, but you can't in a horror movie. You sort of just release, and you're in this world that's unlike anything.
Yeah, I've always said that horror fans are the nicest people I've ever met because they're always,
the smartest, the most passionate, the most freaking real.
They've experienced all this stuff. They've touched on the dark sides of their personality.
We've all. I consider myself a fan and a friend of everyone here, and
except
it's
me.
true. Yeah. Go away. And it is true. We've all. It's way more profound than any is the best way to explain it.
Yeah, what other genre can you even think of that would have that kind of, the ability to bring a film from 30 years ago that was never, mentioned in the same breath with The Burning and Friday the 13th, and now make it to where it's mentioned in the same breath, but maybe mentioned before them, and it's starting to get mentioned in pop culture. The new movie with Meatloaf and what's her name from Good Will Hunting, Stage Fright. It says on the front cover, Minnie Driver. It says on the front cover, it says "Sleepaway Camp beats Glee," and I'm like, that's when you've arrived. It's like they're using us in the same
Robot
sense with
Chicken.
Glee.
That was funny. Did anybody see the Robot Chicken?
And that was part of the start of it. And then
We don't
we
care
saw
about
it.
that.
No, but it's funny because she and I, I dropped out of the business for 20 years, but she and I reconnected 15 years ago or something. Yeah, and it's we've been through so much together, and we saw this sort of
still here.
this tsunami building, starting about 5 years ago, and it's still getting bigger. It's not getting smaller. There's a lot of you guys out here, which we're so appreciative to. But I think the film is so fun. It really is. It's just a really fun. Have you ever shown Sleepaway Camp to somebody and they go, "Well, that was boring." It just doesn't happen unless
Everybody I showed
It's kind of a stock question, but when you guys were making this film, did you ever think it would have the legs that it had?
Never, not in a million years. If anyone had ever said, you'll be sitting there 32 years later, it's surprising, it's amazing, it's the best thing. I'll say it right here, and I said it on the documentary for the Blu-ray. It's the best thing that ever happens to me. And it's
best
true.
and worst.
It gets me very emotional, and I mean that sincerely. It's very strange to be a young child and do something that sort of dictated a lot of what happens in your life. It's quite emotional for me, and I feel very close to that character, Angela, for many reasons, and especially the whole bullying aspect, because I want to kick anybody's ass who's picking on somebody else.
Does anybody have any questions from the audience?
I know I don't boil corn because of that movie.
What's that?
I don't boil corn because
Oh, I've got to ask. It's one of my favorites, one of my personal favorites. What do you guys think of the mustache at the end of the
Hilarious. He got a part on a soap opera, so when the cop originally, shot his scene, he had that full-on, handlebar mustache, and then he went off set, and Robert didn't think twice, we need it back for one day. And when he left, he got a part on a soap opera and shaved. And then they called him today, they come back, he's like, well, I don't have a mustache. They're like, oh, we'll give you one. Little did we know we'd be duct tape. But it's just part of like the
Most people don't know that was actually Groucho Marx's mustache.
It adds to the whole comedy of Sleepaway Camp. That and short shorts, you know, we're all hooked.
Yes, I saw the remake sequel, Return to Sleepaway Camp, Isaac Hayes. Weren't you in it, or you had a small part of it?
I play the sheriff in the movie, Sheriff Jerry. I know no one can believe that I was that scrawny little odd man.
It was comeback, I believe. It was a great return to come back, just like the character.
It was so fun because now I was able to party. Yes, we were on set together and we hardly remember anything from that filming, but yeah, it was a really, really good time. I know that the movie itself did not sort of generate what the original did. And I think, maybe it's because Alan, I don't know how many of you have seen Return to Sleepaway Camp, but that character is very difficult. And it was, I think, hard for an audience to really kind of embrace that kind of, person. Maybe, I don't know.
Wasn't very sympathetic.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
He was hard. It's sort of like you wanted him to die.
The actor who played him has become a very successful sound engineer. He's the sound engineer for Black Rebel Motorcycle.
Anybody else?
For the kids in the movie, how much was it scripted? How much improvised?
The whole thing was scripted.
Except a lot of my stuff was
Oh.
yeah,
I
like
didn't know.
swearing things.
I'm learning something.
I was told to go.
new.
I was told to just go. I was given a sort of outline of the hot spot words to hit. But no, like Robert just said, just go nuts. And so.
And with all of my dialogue, I simply had a very difficult time remembering my lines. As far as I was concerned, it was all, on the page. I still have my original script. My little sticker.
Just, this one's for you. After the movie came out, going back to school or friends, like, did you get a lot of shit? Like, did you get a lot of crap? Did you get, like, I don't know, like, did you have to deal with a lot of stuff?
I did, yeah. I mean,
As a teenager,
I was 13, I was going back to 8th grade, and I was a very insecure girl. It's a very hard time. And I wasn't that much different from Angela. I talked, but I was certainly nervous to go back. And there were girls in my school who were very mean. Like, they didn't know what the movie was. All they knew was, oh, she probably thinks she's great because she did a movie. But I was very withdrawn and nervous. And fortunately, there were another group of girls who wanted to kick those girls' asses. So it kind of all worked out. But in the back of my mind, I always had that Angela, like, kind of feeling in my head and my heart, like, I'll get you. But not really, because that's not good. But, yeah, it was hard.
So I have a question about the kissing at the end of the first movie, about the decision-making process that led up to that. Like, how was that conceived? Why? Commentary, they never explain why.
No, again, that's all Robert. I mean, even the face, like, why would someone decapitate someone and then just stand and go, it's like sort of, an interesting choice. But that, along with the hissing, was just Robert's idea of how this child would react to all that had sort of culminated. It's like you're standing there, you decapitated your boyfriend, you killed the whole camp. That was it. That was just his moment to kind of drive it home. So, yeah, it was my voice, and then they added, a lot of like other elements.
It's also a way to explain why the face didn't move.
There you go. I was Frozen, yeah. The original Frozen.
Oh, sure, yeah. Hi.
Hi.
I was mine was kind of a bounce off of his. How many of those chicks shut up when they saw the movie? No
I did take my whole 8th grade class to the theater, and all of those kids came with me. So I think after the movie, they were a bit more, you know, like, hi, you know, and I became stronger because of it. You know, I looked at them like, yeah, hi, you know, it was sort of that thing. But I mean,
See you in the locker room.
just swinging around, baby. Let it all out.
So looking back, why was the baseball game scene so long?
That was my idea.
And really, in the 80s, for folks that might not have been around that are too young, were shorts really that short?
We were so freaking short. I have no. We mostly brought our own clothes, so you can really blame those shorts on personal wardrobe. Although Jonathan wore, you know, his own cut-off jeans. I have no idea. The wardrobe was
I
ridiculous.
think mine were as short as most, were they? Yeah.
The older guys.
Yeah, that's because they, yeah.
And another question: why was there were so many mad people in the movie?
Well, that was absolutely Robert's intent, you know, was to make a sort of cartoon. That was a very important aspect to everything, was the absolute cruelty of a lot of the characters, and that was awesome. It was a whole Lord of the Flies aspect to it, and that was really cool. And so it was the people, and you know, you still see reviews where they say bad acting. I'm like, no, it was supposed to be like that. It was supposed to be like Shakespeare. It was like a melodrama, you know. It was so over the top. And but if you've ever been to real sleepaway camp, that's what it's like. It's dark. I know, because I went, and it's, you know, I remember being the most popular kid to the kid that cried every day. I did that, and because my brothers didn't come one year, and so I was all alone, and I was scared. It was awful, and you know, and I dropped a ball in a softball game, and it was like from that moment on, it was, you know, and so that's what sleepaway. And I've said this before. It's that movie depicts what camp is like better than any other film before or since. It's eat or be eaten. It's hard.
So much like a lot of horror films, it does have social commentary rather than just a girl with a dick.
I mean, I think so, yeah. It's absolutely intentional, all of his innuendos and whatnot, and homoerotic.
Yeah, who's the comedian, Chu, Margaret Cho. She's a huge Sleepaway Camp fan, and she's written like tons of stuff about the bullying and all that stuff, and then more recently, Tina Fey. I don't know anybody's name. She's not right. Tina Fey was talking about it on the Nerdist, you know, and that she and her friends were obsessed with the movie when she was young. And so all these Sleepaway Camp fans are sort of coming out of the woodwork, you know, where Eli's sitting there going, I always liked it. I was there in the beginning, you jerks, you bandwagon jumpers. Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see the people in pop culture who are now admitting that they watched the film, you know, 30, 40, 50 times.
Any other questions from the audience?
I would like to say that I can understand the criticism that might come from like LGBT people, but I think the movie shows that it can really mess you up having this event in your life, or at least your adolescence, as a gender that you are, really. So I think that we should get more support for that, honestly.
Yeah, there's been people on both sides of it. And you know, we have a lot of transgender friends at this point who are huge fans of the film. So the way I look at it is, it's all perception. So spin it the way you want to spin it.
No one?
I think she's a killer because look at Aunt Martha. If you lived with that crazy bitch, wouldn't you?
As Felissa,
Yeah, and that's what I had to put up with.
As Felissa has commented before, we still think Ricky's part of the deal. He's messed up. He got raised by Aunt Martha too.
Yeah.
You know, this is not good.
He's
He's not a
trying to
happy.
take over. Like,
He's not a happy, well-adjusted kid. No,
I was a kid.
I had no idea. You were the first person to come up to me and said, "Oh, you knew," and I'm like,
Don't
"What?"
you think Ricky knew? How could you not know? I don't think.
So she thinks Ricky knows. So I'm going with it.
But what do you guys think?
If not,
Does
she'll
Ricky know?
hit me.
Yes. I think so, Ronnie.
What's
Can we vote?
The yays to Ricky, no.
What if they were
Okay, and the nays.
killing sprees, and then neither one knew, and they're just like, oh, you were killing too? Me too!
Well, that's theories about that too. About like that they were two Angelas and all so confusing.
Well, no, I think I don't want to give away what might become the next installment, if I may.
We're gonna be doing this.
Something going on. So laggy. Help me on my table. No, I think that the twins might both be alive. No one ever said anyone died. We saw some floaty vest come up that was a little bloody. So how do we know?
I remember him being an excellent swimmer.
Yeah, he was an excellent swimmer. Yeah, we all had those heavy New York accents.
So
I'll be back before dinner.
Sleepaway Camp is kind of ahead of
Pain must be incredible.
ahead of the curve. At this time, most of the killers were men, and women were just fodder for them. Now, we bring in Angela, who is the killer. Talk about what do you think that meant for females going forward?
I think it's rocking. I love it. I think more chicks should be on screen killing everybody. Pamela Voorhees. I love the fact that she's 13 years old, transvestite serial killer. Oh my God, that's like a recipe of amazing.
Jonathan Victoria, secret Tiersten. Big killer.
I mean, it's cool to have a chick killer, right? Don't you think? We need more of them. We just did a movie called Blood Reservoir, and there's a lot going on there.
I don't
but
kill
I
anyone.
get to kill again, everybody. It makes you so happy to get all of your rage out.
That's a good segue. You guys have any current projects that you're working on?
No.
I do. I just had a movie come out called Camp Dread, which is amazing with Eric Roberts
It's
and
awesome.
Danielle Harris.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm madly in love with Danielle Harris. Eric, no, I'm kidding. And I did a movie with Dee Wallace, my amazing friend Dee Wallace, Billy Zane, and Misha Barton called Zombie Killers, and it just got picked up by Anchor Bay, so it's coming out in January. I produced my own movie called No Solicitors, starring Eric Roberts, Beverly Randolph, and Kim Poirier. I did a supernatural called Within These Walls, and now I did a movie with Jonathan called, what is it? Blood Reservoir, and we're producing a movie together called The House That Wept Blood, and a thriller called Fractured that's really crazy. I play Scream Queen. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. And I have another film that just debuted at the Coney Island Film Festival called Redemption with George Loros from The Sopranos, who played Buffalo Ray Curto, and Barry Primus, and Meredith Ostrom. And so, yeah, we have a bunch of
We
stuff.
did a movie called The Perfect House together.
Yeah,
That was
and
crazy.
that's in wide release now, which is really cool. And she's amazing in The Perfect House. And it's
He's
really,
amazing and he won every award, okay? And any review that it gets is all about him, so kudos to you, baby.
She got me the role. But it's the first time I get to play a killer. And I psychologically torture my victims as well as physically torture them. And it was just for my first role back after a 20-year hiatus, it was for her to find that for me. And we tell the funny story because the director said, I'm looking at his Facebook page, he looks all nice with his frosted tips on his hair, and pictures of him playing with his son, I can't see how he'd be menacing. And Felissa looks at him and goes, try dating him.
So one final question for me. Are you guys horror fans of her?
I'm a huge horror fan, yeah.
She is more so than I am. I'm a cinephile, period. I like horror movies, but I just like movies in general. I'm a huge movie buff. And so
I
I'm
pretty
not
much
specific.
only watch horror movies.
Yeah, I'm not specific to genre, but I do like horror movies. I like lots of different movies.
It's always good to hear that you guys are fans because some people just do this for the money and not for the love.
No, I mean, I get so crazy, bizarrely, nerdy when I see, half the people here. I'm like, oh my God. It's crazy because I watch everything.
Right.
She's so demure.
Any final questions from the audience?
very sad for David Nestor being in Florida.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, so you know the story. Well, The House That Wept Blood was originally a project that was David Hess's baby. And the writer, producer named Scott Bullock worked with the original writer of Friday the 13th to get the script done. And it's an absolutely brilliant script, and when David Hess read it, he said this movie has to be made. And so David shot the prologue, a 15-minute prologue, cost a bunch of money to raise funds for the movie. And then David, as a lot of you know, suddenly died of a heart attack last year. And so Scott was sort of dead in the water. And Scott's a Colorado guy, which is where I live, so he came up to me at the Mile High Horror Film Festival and said, "Can you help me with this film?" And so from that point forward, I instilled Felissa's help. And so now we're co-producing. We also both star in the film. We're going to have some other great actors.
Like Tiffany Shepard and Sean Whalen.
And maybe Eric Roberts. We'll see.
Eric Roberts.
And so we're really looking forward to this project, and we've sent it to some people who are great for funding, and it looks like it's going to get made, and it's going to be amazing.
So you mentioned son. So twofold. One, kids. If you have or will you allow your kids to watch the movie? And back when you made it and it was finally finished, you said that your mom was on set when you were making it. It's different when it's finally released, especially being in New York. So now when your mom's friends see the movie because you're in it, what kind of reactions were you getting? And then, like I said with the first question, are you allowing your kids to watch it, and what are they thinking nowadays with all this social media and everything that's out there?
I have 3 children, and my daughter is 9, my oldest, and she was up last night watching Prom Night, just to give you an idea of what my house is like.
That's how my house was.
Okay.
Since an early age.
The only statement I will say about that is totally okay for kids. Just communicate with them. I did a documentary called The Rise and Fall of the Slasher Film, and that's all I was about. Just communicate. My kids know it's fun, it's entertainment, it's amazing. Just watch with guarded eyes and ears and whatnot. And as far as my mom's friends, they all love it. They all love it. Go, come deal with me.
I have an 8-year-old boy. He's not allowed to watch it, but we're getting there. Like, by the time he's 9, yeah, by the time he's 9, because we're starting to watch, PG-13 movies and stuff. But she is absolutely but she's absolutely right. We're a little more strict, but she is absolutely right about if you communicate, then it's all good, and that's really the most important thing. And I don't want him to go watching, have him go watch it surreptitiously without me. So I would prefer that I was in the room when it happens. So. We talk about it a lot, and I can't see the perfect house. Oh my God.
Like torture.
I'm so brutal, and her scene is so unbelievably disturbing. The
I
film.
play a mom, and my kids are like killing each other.
Yeah,
so
she's like Sigourney Weaver and aliens trying to defend her children, and it's so hard to watch, but it's great. And so he's not, and it's funny because it's on the shelves at Walmart. He goes, "Look, Daddy!" And I'm like, "Put that down."
Too overprotective.
He says to his teacher when he
Give them
first gets into 3rd grade.
Come on.
When he first gets into 3rd grade, he goes, "My daddy plays scary movies on TV, but I'm not afraid of him."
Well, I want to thank you guys. If you haven't seen these guys, they're in the far room on the right. Go get an opportunity to them. And again, Sleepaway Camp.
Thank you guys.
In Los Angeles, put your hands together for Mr. Michael Axner for the East Coast Horror Group and from Western Color Radio Network. You guys stick around. We got the Harbinger Down panel coming up next.